Good morning. This is Father David here with day 25 of the Winter Pascha. The topic, the title of this chapter is God is with us. And this is another one of the famous hymns often associated with Christmas. We don't only sing this at Christmas. It's a part of a service called Compline, which is kind of an after dinner service in monasteries. And it begins sometimes just with a single cantor or a canonarch, again, singing, God is with us. Understand, all ye nations, and submit yourselves, for God is with us. We have a particular Compline service followed by Matins, the vigil of Christmas Eve, where this is sung as well. And of course, for us in the Christmas season, we remember the words of the Nativity of this prophecy from Isaiah ring all the more true because of the Christmas season. For unto us a child is born. Anyone who knows Handel's Messiah recognizes this as well. To us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and of his peace there will be no end. And his name will be called the Angel of the Great Counsel, Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace, the Father of the world to come. And then after, and there are other verses before, but then afterwards we sing again, God is with us. Understand, all ye nations, and submit yourselves, for God is with us. And of course, this is, Emmanuel, God with us, that is quoted within Matthew's Gospel, that God is with us, Emmanuel, with us is God. And that has been a hymn ever since. Emmanuel, his name, God is with us. The Virgin will conceive and bear a son, and his name will be called Emmanuel, with us is God. In Greek, that got changed to Methimon or Theos. And Father Thomas talks about a few, actually he mentions one story in this chapter, but I remember him talking about this Methimon, like with us in Greek, or Theos, God, with us is God. That phrase was translated into Church Slavonic for Russian speakers, and then it remained in that Church Slavonic for many American Orthodox Christians. So Father Thomas talked about one time there was a Russian American lady, or an old Russian lady, who, it was Christmas Eve, and everybody was over at the house, and she's putting on her shawl, prayer, shawl, and she's gonna go to church. And it's like, well, it's time for me, we're gonna go have mefimoni. And he goes, what are you gonna have? What's the service called? Mefimoni. It's every Christmas Eve we go and we sing mefimoni. And it took him a second. Mefimoni, she's thinking meth-imon o theos, and all she heard, because she didn't understand, was mefimoni. And that was the title that she had given this service. What's based on this hymn, God is with us. And everybody sings, for God is with us, for God is with us, for God is with us, in between each line. So all she heard was methimon o theos, methimon o theos, methimon o theos. And so she called it mefimoni. It's a cute little thing, but it leads into the story that Father Thomas does mention in this chapter, where due to the efforts of Father Alexander Schmemann and Father Tom Hopko, English had begun to be used, and it was now comprehensible to people in their own language. So this woman in particular, it says, one night a person hearing the Orthodox Vigil on Christmas for the first time in English, this is an Orthodox Christian, was scandalized, greatly angered by the singing of this prophetic canticle. She came to the priest, very upset, asked him how such a terrible song could be sung in church. When the priest asked her what song she meant, he discovered which it was. He was surprised that this woman, who was a member of the Orthodox Church, had never heard this song before. Turned out she had heard it, but never understood its meaning clearly because of the foreign language in which the services had been celebrated. Her difficulty was with the fact that the verse said, God is with us, or in other words, God is with us, right? And that it called all people to understand and submit themselves, okay? And, it says how unbelievably presumptuous she declared that the Orthodox would solemnly proclaim that God was with them, and then be even more arrogant in demanding that others understand and submit. Although the woman was gravely mistaken in her interpretation of the song, her attitude betrayed a common approach to religion in North America, where no church is supposed to think itself truer than others, and where submission in any form is to be considered degrading and demeaning. But the point of Isaiah's canticle, Father Tom continues, is not that God is only with one particular group of people and never with another. The point is rather that God is with all people, the human race, in other words, anthropos, with mankind, okay, with human beings, in the coming of the promised Messiah. And the writings of the prophet himself make this teaching quite clear, as the interpretation of the Gospels and the apostolic writings of the Christian New Testament plainly testified. This is a proclamation of, universal embracing of God, by God, of the human race. Now, of course, this is not something, sadly, that all mankind accepts or wants or likes or understands. And in part, especially today, because of this idea that submission, we think of everything in terms of perhaps class or power struggles, or people will take critical race theory and see everything, or class warfare, and see everything only through that identity politics, that everything is about oppressor versus oppressed. Now, I want to be clear. The prophets do talk about when, for example, the rich and the powerful oppress the poor and the needy. He says, many of the prophets say, most of them, that when the Messiah does come on the last day of human history, in other words, the crucified one, Christ, comes again and establishes on earth his eternal kingdom, that will cease, and that those who have built themselves high up will be brought low, and those who have been ground into the dirt of poverty will be lifted up, but not in a way that seeks to overthrow all people, to simply categorize people into groups. This will be done for each and all, but it is because God's definition of justice will be established. Now, for many people, that will be a relief. We have, in a sense, within us, that all mankind should be treated justly and fairly, and this comes from God. But ultimately, it will be his decision of, he will define just and fair and true. But it will be a question of when we have a true and just ruler, not the sons of men that God said, that Christ told his apostles, that lord it over their fellow man. There will be a gracious and true and consistent and loving and all-powerful, but fair and just and compassionate ruler. Will we be able to see it for what it truly is? When God is with us and when God rules over us, Father Tom continues later on in the chapter, when the Christ appears on earth, God is truly with us. All of us, not only with the Jews, but with the Gentiles, not only with the Orthodox Christians and Christians generally, but with all people, including those who do not ask for him and do not seek him. All peoples and nations are called to understand this and submit to it, not for God's sake. That's important, but for their own. It is their honor, not their humiliation. It is their dignity, not their degradation. It is their freedom, not their enslavement. It is their very life. Brothers and sisters, what we are called to, moment by moment, decision by decision, thought by thought, word by word, action by action, is to discern and remember the dominion of God, even now. His kingdom has already come. It is hidden in the hearts of his people, and one day it will blossom forth in all of creation, all of the universe. But we who belong to Christ now are called to submit ourselves, that reality of the kingdom would begin within us, that we would submit to the justice and the kindness and the fairness and the compassion of our God now, that we would be open to his rule now, so that when he comes, it will be a final flowering of the blessed submission that we have already tasted and found within our own lives, that we have, as we say in Lent, tasted and seen that the Lord is good, that he is trustworthy. He will not, and he may not, and he is not always enjoyable, right? His decisions are not always what we want, what we like, what we'd prefer. I joke, God still, for some reason, doesn't check things with me. I don't know, I keep asking him. But this is our call to understand that with everything that occurs with us, that God truly is good and loves mankind and comes to us in the manger to show us that he prepares to go to the cross and the tomb as the lover of mankind. God is with us. So God bless you. And this is Father David, and Lord willing, we'll talk to you tomorrow.